Hey guys, I'm Becky and welcome back to another video. Today I am doing my quarter 3 wrap up. So this is all of the books that I read in July, August, and September. This month the lowest rating was a 2-star, the highest a 5-star, and these are going in order of rating and date read within that rating, for the most part. So just to get it out of the way, I did read books 2 through 5 in the Ice Planet Barbarian series by Ruby Dixon. Books 2, 3, and 5 got 5 stars, and book 4 got 2 stars. So that's why we're starting with getting this out of the way. I don't want to pause and talk about the other books later, so we're talking about it now. I really enjoyed books 2, 3, and 5. Obviously, they got 5 stars. These books are definitely books that I don't critically read and review. There are very few books that I critically read and review. It is usually about just enjoyment and having fun and having a good time, and that's pretty much it. These books are not perfect. These books don't have the most amazing grammar and punctuation and stuff like that. For the most part, they're honestly not bad. There are some things that other people are going to absolutely despise about these books and think that they're garbage, but I enjoy them. I think they're so fun. However, when it came to book 4, my 2-star book, I just did not like it. This book is very different from all the other ones so far in the fact that it has this relationship with a human and with an alien, which is normal, but the alien is a lot more primitive than the other aliens we have encountered so far. So the aliens that we know did not even know that this guy existed out there in the wild, and he can't speak. He has been taught some very backwards things because his father was hiding from the blue aliens. So didn't love it. What I really didn't like is that he can't speak, but yet these people are resonating to each other. So that was strange. And I know that that's kind of what happened in book 1, but it was they both could speak. It's just they couldn't communicate to each other properly. And while they had an attraction to each other, it wasn't until they really understood what was happening until later on when they did understand each other. So it was just a lot more quickly where once they got the brain dump, then they could talk and understand one another. Whereas this, our human is having to teach him how to speak. And it's very long and drawn out. And because of this backwards ways that he was taught to hide from the other aliens, he doesn't want her to go back. He's very distrustful. He's very controlling. And it's just, I didn't love it. I did not love it. Let's get off of this blue alien tangent and continue on so this video isn't too long. We are going to move on to the 3 stars, as that was my only 2-star book. The first 3-star book is The Merciful Crow by Margaret Owen. I picked this for book club. I was the only one in book club to actually pick it up and finish it, and I didn't love it. The premise was very interesting and exciting. The fact that they really put emphasis on the cat really annoyed me because the cat has a very small part in the book. I mean, it is still an impactful part, but I was expecting a lot more, and we didn't get that. And I don't know, this book just really fell kind of flat for me. I think what really kind of set me off of not giving this at least a 4-star is the ending. I really don't like when books have this plot where they are having to go all over the world, the country, the land, whatever, to try to find somebody who can help them with this bad guy or issue. To then only find out that once they find that person or that cure or whatever, that it does not work, that one of them was able to solve it the entire time. They could have solved it at any point. Because it just makes it feel all worthless to me. I don't like it. I really hate it, to be honest. So there were parts of this book that I really enjoyed. I really liked the world building. I loved I want to say pecking order because it's birds, but I really liked the, I guess, factions. I can't think of the right word, but, classes. I really liked the class system within the world. It was very interesting. I liked it. However, this book kind of fell flat. The other 3-star was Fake Boyfriend by Susanna Thompson. I was sent this book for review. I was originally sent the audiobook, and did not love our narrator. So I switched to reading the ebook copy. I did, I think, purchase a copy if I'm not mistaken. I did enjoy this book, but at the same time, it also got a 3-star just because of how jarring the book is. There is no content warning on Goodreads or in the book of just how much sexual harassment is in this book. And it's not just like little stuff. It is like full-blown, really terrible sexual harassment in a high school setting. So just the fact that like it starts on page 1, like it's right off the bat, there is absolutely no warning, and it continues throughout like the entire book. And the way that the book kind of progresses and kind of ends, it gets better for our character, but I just feel like we didn't have that, like, to have like this intense stuff going on to not get like the same kind of intense happy ending. Yeah, it was just a lot. I didn't not like it because of that. I just wish that I knew going in, because it was intense. Moving on to our 4 stars. The first one is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I ended up reading this for Summerween, and this book was so good. It's definitely going to stick with me, and I definitely plan on reading a whole lot more Stephen Graham Jones. This book was written in a very interesting way. It was very close to a 5-star, but I think mostly because of the way it's written. While it's interesting, it also, I feel like it could have been better if it wasn't broken up like that, or something else kind of would have happened. And I don't want to go too far into it and spoil it for you. Just know that, like, I really enjoyed this book, but there was just a little element that this book was missing to give it a 5-star for me. But really loved it, and definitely checking out more by this author. Next is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. I love Grady Hendrix. I gotta tell you though, it's really a shame, and I'm finding other people who like Grady Hendrix are feeling the same way, of like, it's such a shame that our first introduction to Grady Hendrix was The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, because that book was so freaking good, and I feel like all of his other books are just like not quite meeting that. Like that book was just absolutely amazing. It's so freaking good. So this one is his newest one that just released this summer. I was so excited to get my hands on it and read it. And this is very different from other Grady Hendrix books. All of his other books have some sort of paranormal horror element, whereas this one has realistic horror. So it was very different from what we're used to, and I think that, at least from what I perceived, is that it was also very new to him as well, because he just didn't push it. Like, there were some times in this book where it could have been absolutely horrifying, and he just didn't go that far. So while I enjoyed it and liked the premise, like, I was so freaking excited about a Final Girl book. Like, that sounds like everything. It just didn't meet what my expectations were, and then also what, like, I know that he can do. So I am very excited to see what he will do if he continues to go into realistic horror, but yeah. Next was An Extraordinary Union by Alyssa Cole. I did like this book, but I am unsure if I'm going to continue on with the series. The whole spy element, especially in the Southern Confederacy, really ramps up my anxiety. So while I enjoyed it, it was just very like, I wish you wouldn't do this. But I did also really like that war kind of plot line that was also happening in the background. Like, we have this romance, this historical romance, but we also have these war true life events that are happening as well. And it was very good. But yeah, I feel like I might continue, but also, will my anxiety appreciate that? Next was You Have a Match by Emma Lord. This was another book club pick. This one was really cute. I don't really have a whole lot bad to say about the book. The only thing that me and other book club members kind of disliked is just the lack of communication. That trope is so freaking annoying, of just like, everything would be fine with these relationships, whether they're romantic or friendship or family, if you would just talk to each other. Like, that would solve everything. So it just drives me crazy. And that's pretty much the only reason that I didn't give this 5 stars, because it was so good and interesting, but just talk. It solved everything. And the last 4-star is Lair of Dreams by Libba Bray. This is the second book in the Diviners series, and just like book 1, very interesting, just not 5-star quality. What I'm also really finding about these books is like the very beginning and the very ending is what keeps me going. Like the beginning is so interesting that I keep reading the book, and then I start to feel like a 3-star, and then the ending happens and it's really interesting and it pushes it back up to a 4-star and then makes me want to read the next one. And I remember kind of being the same way with book 1. So it's a little disappointing. So I feel like these books technically should be a 3-star, but they just have just a little bit of pizzazz to push it up. And now moving on to our 5 stars. Because we have talked about the Ice Planet Barbarian books already, I'm going to be skipping over all of those since I've talked at length about them, I feel. So the first one is The Beast of Bestwick by Emily Howard. This is a historical romance that I was reading with my historical romance book club, which has unfortunately disbanded after the summer. A lot of the people who were in our book club were teachers, and this year pretty much everyone was going back to in-person. So it was a little too much to keep this on their plate until they can get used to things. On top of that, teachers are being asked to do a lot more than what has always been expected of them, which was already too much. And also with having employee shortages. Yeah. So, little side tangent about teachers. Definitely, I hope that you're taking it that I'm on teacher's side. But yeah, I'll just say that as a disclosure, just to make sure. So, we read this book. It is a historical romance Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I love this. It did have that trope of miscommunication, but I feel like it kind of made up for it, and I did really like it. Next was Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This is book 2 in the Throne of Glass series that I'm reading for the first time this year, and this book is almost borderline a 4-star. I feel like so far this is my least favorite book in the series, but at the same time so much impactful stuff happens that like there's no way it could be a 4-star or like an awful book with it being the least favorite. So yeah, this book was intense. I did not love the beginning, but once I finally got into it, I really enjoyed it, and that ending really pissed me off, which is like the number one reason why this is my least favorite book, because it made me feel like a big stupid idiot for rooting for a romance that was never going to happen. So, next is Dear Martin by Nick Stone. If you have not read this book yet, please do. It is a very short book. I read it in one sitting while in bed. I decided like, hey, I'm just going to start this really quick, and then never stopped reading. But it's a very impactful book, an enlightening book, and it's by Nick Stone. Like, that's all you need to know. Nick Stone is like Tiffany D. Jackson. That's all you need to know. Next is Final Girls by Riley Sager. This book is extremely similar to Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. However, this one's by Riley Sager. It came out years ago, and I did read these books back to back, and I enjoyed this one so much more. I think because this one is just like a little bit darker, it really leans into that thriller side, and on top of that, the twist ending, which like I kind of called, but then at the same time was like, no, I don't think so. And then yeah, it was so good. And I feel like because my expectations weren't met with the Grady Hendrix one, this one was exactly what I was expecting from a Riley Sager. So yeah. Then I read Air Fire by Sarah J. Maas, book 3 in the Throne of Glass series. And this book became my new favorite for the moment. But I will let you know that as the books have gone on, I have then dubbed the next one my absolute favorite so far. But yes, this book was excellent. I really, really loved it. I thought like, oh yeah, this is my favorite book of the series. Spoiler, I did then read book 4 in October, and that is my favorite book so far. So, but we'll see, because I'm currently reading books 5 and 6. So, we'll find out at the end which one is my favorite. Next is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is one of her newest books until White Smoke came out, which I have read. Just as a spoiler, it'll be in the next quarter review. But this book was very different from her other books. This one has a much more emotional side. The other ones are very like thriller, dark, interesting, and while it is that, it is dealing with sexual assault and sexual harassment and controlling in a relationship where it is a teenager, and I think I want to say he's in his 40s. So this book was very different, but also very, very good. This is the first Tiffany D. Jackson book, I believe, that has made me cry. So it is a lot more of an emotional book than her other ones, but again, it's Tiffany D. Jackson. Just pick it up. Next is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas, I believe is how you say her last name and her first name. This was Books with Chloe's Patreon book club pick, and I almost didn't read this book, but I kind of just felt like, I think I wanted to start something at work or something, so I picked it up and it wrecked all of my reading plans. I could not stop reading this book. It was so freaking good. It's available on Kindle Unlimited, and if you haven't read it, please do. This book was so freaking good. Like, it almost was one of my favorite books of the quarter. So, I mean, it is still one of my favorite books of the quarter, but it almost made like the top tier favorite book of the month. So good. Next was Any Way the Wind Blows by Rainbow Rowell. This is the third and final book in the Simon Snow series, which is so sad, but honestly, this book was amazing. I felt like it wrapped it up really well. I definitely am hoping and praying for a spin-off series with some other characters. I won't tell you who because it's spoilery, but I'm hoping that that happens. But this book was absolutely excellent. It's everything that I wanted. I feel very like whole and complete. It was just great. It is very emotional. It is also very, very anxiety inducing. It is very like go, go, go from page 1 until the end. There is not a whole lot of like filler content or anything. Like, it's just nonstop switching between all of our characters, and everything's intense for literally everybody. Next is Fire in His Blood by Ruby Dixon. I decided to pick this up. Why did I? It was for a readathon. Oh, it was for the Aurelium Magical Readathon that G from Book Roast does, which I'm so freaking excited for April. I wish it was already here. So this is another Ruby Dixon series. However, instead of us falling in love and mating with aliens, we're doing it with dragons. I know, I may have lost you. But if you liked the Ice Planet Barbarian series, definitely check this out because it's so good. It's really so good, and it's pretty much like the exact same, but yet different, and it takes place on Earth. Just so good, so good. And I have now found out through Goodreads that Ruby Dixon has written so many other books and series. A lot of them are like, you don't have to read Ice Planet Barbarians, but it would help out tremendously if you did, because they all kind of like are spin-off series of that in this one. So I'm very excited that I have so many more ridiculous, strange, paranormal romances to read. And my last 5-star book before I get into my favorites of the month was The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. I was warned that this book was going to make me cry and that it was emotional. And yep, all of those things are true. Also, I highly recommend to read this book if you haven't read the series yet in the order that I did, which is read books 1 through 3, then this one, and then 4 through 7. It is the best way to read the series. It honestly is, because you get to like learn all the things that happened after this book. And then you read this book and you understand all of the things that you read. And then as you move on, you are then re-seeing characters that you're like, oh, I really hope that we see them again. And it's just, it's amazing. So now let's get on to my favorite books of the month. Of course, these are all 5 stars. I have not talked about any of these books yet, and let's jump into it. So my favorite book of July is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. Now that I have learned more about this book, and I don't know if I did read the author's note, maybe I did and just didn't like put 2 and 2 together. This book was written obviously well before the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. However, it takes place in the same town, which I did know, but it's a couple years apart, and this one is following the teenagers, whereas Southern Book Club is following the adults. And it explains so much of like why I love this book so much. Number one, there's a whole lot of 80s nostalgia. Sorry if I'm moving around. My leg is asleep, and I'm trying to get into a comfortable position without disturbing Pepe, who is now laying on one of my legs. So everything's a-okay over here. Anyways, it has a lot of 80s nostalgia. It has all of those great Grady Hendrix things that we absolutely love about his books. And there is a scene with a tapeworm that is horrifically disturbing, but exactly what I expected and wanted and love about Grady Hendrix. For August, my favorite book was Survive the Night by Riley Sager. This is Riley Sager's newest book, and it was so good. I really, really liked it. My best friend also read it, and she didn't love it as much as me, probably because of like the twist ending, whereas I loved it because of the twist ending. It was good. I really, really liked it. It really made you think and like then go back and kind of question everything that happened, and I just liked it. I really, really liked it. And then last but certainly not least is my September favorite, which was almost, I believe, Spanish Love Deception, or was it August? I don't know. But this book was almost something else, and then I read this book and was like, there's no way. So my August favorite book was These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. You guys, if you love The Cruel Prince and you absolutely adore ACOTAR, you have to read this book. You have to. It's so amazing. It's so freaking good. I read it with the Bookish Box for their like month-long read-along, and it was the best. It was honestly the best. I do wish that I just read it kind of like in one sitting instead of breaking it up into 3 parts, because I feel like it lost a little bit of its luster just because it's not that thrilling in a way of like there's not like a whole bunch of like explosive oh my god moments. If that was the case, that is a great book to read during a read-along and dragging it out. However, with this one, it didn't have a whole lot of those, so I still did love it. It's definitely a favorite book, don't get me wrong, but I do wish that I just read it like all in one go, because I would have loved it even more than I love it now. And the ending is wild, and I can't wait for book 2, which doesn't come out until next summer. I'm hopefully just gonna like pack that into the back of my mind now and remember when summer is actually here, and I can be like, oh my god, I'm so excited it's finally here, and I didn't stress about it for a year. But alright guys, those are all the books that I read in quarter 3. Definitely be sure to leave a comment down below telling me what you have read during this time period or recently, whatever. I just like knowing what you guys are reading and what you're thinking. Maybe I should pick it up, maybe I should stay away from it. Let me know. Don't forget, if you also enjoyed this video, to give it a thumbs up. Keep reading, stay safe, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!